Welcome everyone to one more exciting day in this National Cyber League post competition week called the Spirit Week. It's building in reputation, building in excitement. And I'm Costas Torregas. I'm the finance director
Finance director,
of Cyber
I
League,
believe.
and also very much an advocate and a passionate advocate for what NCL does. My job is to moderate three different voices on the same topic of the soft skills. Is it an urban myth? Is people say, it doesn't matter what kind of degree you have, it doesn't matter what kind of courses you take. Soft skills, that's all. That's what we want. That's what we want. What is that? Is that reality? Or is that an urban myth? And at the same time, every time I talk to someone from industry, they say things like, what I'm looking for is someone who can connect the dots when they're not there. Wow, I mean that's a pretty impressive and very complex thought in itself. In other words, they're looking for uniqueness in the ability to think, not necessarily a degree or a certificate. So we've assembled a tremendous panel of people that I'm very proud and pleased to call my friends to talk about this soft skills and how they can help you land a great job in your career. We're going to start with Sarah Morales, who is the manager from Google, who will give us an industry perspective about this soft skills question. We then will go to Deanne to tell us, to Chris to tell us a little bit about his intermediary role and how he prepares people to go into the profession. And then we'll end with Deanne, who's an educator, a well-known one, and she'll tell us a little bit about how she can or cannot give you the tools and the instincts you need. So that's all I'm going to say. We're going to stay on the screen. Please start putting comments and questions on the side. And Sarah, I'm going to ask you to dive in and tell us a little bit about how you perceive soft skills in a cybersecurity career of a young man or woman.
Sure. Thank you, Costas. And nice to see my fellow panelists. And I wish I could see everyone listening, but hi out there on the internet. My name is Sarah Morales, and I am a senior program manager at Google on one of Google's cybersecurity teams. It's officially known as Privacy, Safety, and Security within Google. I'm also lucky to be on a national board or international board, I guess, with Costas called Women in Cybersecurity. And I've had the pleasure to attend lots of security events in my career here at Google to represent us and to meet folks that we are looking to hire, that we're looking to engage with, and also to kind of gain knowledge and share knowledge with. I would say my soft skills, I hope, are what mostly have gotten me where I am. I actually originally have a degree in environmental science, and actually sometimes wake up and surprise myself that I work in cybersecurity, but I'm happy to be here. I think a lot of what I've learned over the last decade or almost 2 decades of my career is while your base knowledge is important, it's often how you continue to learn, how you represent the knowledge that you have, and your ability to collaborate with others. That's really, really crucial in success in getting people to move towards a decision, to work together on a program, to get funding, to get executive buy-in. All that really, you need the base content and knowledge, but you also need to be able to influence. You need to bring people along on the journey that you're driving. You need to get executives to buy in on what you're proposing. And you need to convince those who maybe have other opinions to both take their feedback and integrate their feedback back and keep the program running. I'm very much coming from my program management hat, not my software or security engineering hat. But those kind of soft skills and how you collaborate, how you get differing opinions to be shared, but then also drive people towards a decision together. All that takes practice and skills. And even if you're someone who's more introverted, I'm actually very extroverted, but even if you're introverted, those are skills you can build. It's not just, I'm introverted and I can't move ahead or grow in this space. Those are all important skills that you can practice and that will help you in moving forward.
Well,
I'm going to pause if there's follow-up questions. I don't know from the channel or Costas
Yeah, that's a great positioning statement. And then maybe after each of you have a chance to say something, then we'll get a little bit a three-way conversation going. So,
Perfect.
Chris, why don't you take over and build on what Sarah just positioned for us?
Thanks, Costas. Well, to give you a bit of background from where I come from, I guess I've been in recruitment, so tech recruitment, for over 25 years. I co-founded a cybersecurity staffing and professional services firm in 2012, and then I've been very involved in the community. So, as Costas knows, I lead the industry advisory board for NCL. I'm also on the Washington Cybersecurity Center of Excellence industry board as well. Very involved in the community, and although my company specializes in placing very experienced people, I realized that unless we have great people coming through, I have no business in the future. So it's really important that all of you that are listening and out there are building the skills that you need to build a good, strong career. And it's what we need in, going forwards. It's what companies need. So I'm very involved in that. My thoughts on the soft skills, extremely important. Like Sarah, I've kind of built a whole career really off soft skills. I'm really not too sure how that's happened, but a lot of networking, a lot of meeting people, and a lot of building relationships and introducing people. And so the ability to work on your soft skills and adapt in different environments are going to be very important. As we move into the future, we're going to see a lot of AI coming in. We know that, right? When people are talking about that, we're seeing that now. The ability to work with AI, to know how to get the correct prompts, to get the information out, are all part of those soft skills and communication skills. So, only recently with, one of the key skills would be, how do you use Google? How do you go out and ask those questions on Google? What kind of search strings are you using? And now that's going to be turning into prompts and asking AI. So from one respect, with soft skills and communication, that's going to be a real key. The rest of the stuff, I really feel, and I've talked to a lot of people that are entering the industry, it's really important to get out there and network and meet people. And no matter where you are in your country, in the world, in your state, there are different communities of cybersecurity people. And so it's just a matter of getting out there, reaching out and finding them. Obviously, bigger cities probably have more meetups. Cloud Security Alliance, ISSA, ISC2, ISACA, OWASP, all of these different communities, and certainly, obviously, WISIS, WISIS, should I say, and the other sort of areas that are helping build more diversity. A lot of them have local chapters. Now, if you're a little bit further out, you might need to find your or produce your own community. And that's, again, all part of soft skills, going out and creating those things. Maybe you've got to create your own meetups. So it's really is key. Getting good experience, building knowledge, having a great resume put together will get you to a certain point. But at some point, you're going to need to interview, and that's when those soft skills start coming in. And then once you've actually got the job, your soft skills are going to be even more key. So, sorry, I can waffle on for ages about this.
Yeah. So, Chris, maybe to pick up on something that Jordan Ray's picked up on a question for us. She's wondering whether there's some specific online activity or portfolios production that employers are looking for. So, how do you substantiate your skills? How do you prove your skills?
So from my end, I would say that going out and doing that networking that I was talking about, that's going to be really important. Many of the chapters of these different communities are looking for speakers. They're looking for people, and they're willing to give people their first opportunity to speak. And so if you can start thinking about things that are relevant, or even talking to the organizers, maybe you can get that opportunity to put yourself out there. I think, is there any particular portfolio? Not specifically. You're going to see people ask you for things like, I want to be able to see somebody's passion in cybersecurity. And there are multiple different ways you're going to need to show that. So it might be by having a lab, or by spending your time in projects that are cybersecurity related outside of your studies, like National Cyber League. But it's also going to be you going out and putting yourself out there and doing this networking, showing your passion that you go out. If you can get to conferences, great. There are some conferences that will actually enable you to get either discounted or free access, certainly to some of the more local ones. So I think these are the sort of things you can need to do. I know that's not too specific, but I think if once you start getting those networking and meeting people, you'll find what different people are looking for in terms of activities. And all of these things do build really well on your resume, and they should be things that are in your resume.
Yeah. Before I turn the floor over to our next speaker, Sarah, I wonder if you can kind of give the Google perspective, but also grab some of the comments that were made by some who says, I live in a rural area in my state. How can I network to find a remote position?
Yeah, I was actually just to type back there. I mean, I think if you live a place remote, you're going to need to rely more on obviously online networking. So, many of you are here, right, for the NCL. I'm sure there's many other CTFs that also have a social component connected to them. So that's a great way to meet other people we kind of call practitioners, or people who are doing the work or trying to get into the field. So I'd recommend keeping up with that. LinkedIn really is the home to a lot of networking. So there are LinkedIn groups. There are also people you can follow. If you are going to kind of cold call someone on LinkedIn, I'd recommend writing a message first saying, I saw you seem really interesting. I've checked out your career. Would you be willing to talk, or do you have a recommendation of someone I could talk with, or a group if you are in any alumni networks, or if you completed any sort of courses like a SANS course or something like that? Those are often great people and have kind of career circles afterwards. There's also places like if you are connected to any sort of interest group or affinity group, like Cybersecurity or Black Girls Hack, or I'm sure Anita Borg has different kind of online circles that you can join. So obviously it can be tough if you're not near that, but I think there are places through some of these channels. And then there's always Reddit boards. I think obviously from online safety, you want to be careful in some of those circles, but there's nothing wrong with networking is also now very digital, right? And sometimes honestly, that's a good way to start. If you do feel nervous, that's also sometimes easier to write someone than it is to talk to them live, or talk with them one-on-one first and then go into like a group setting. So I'd look in some of those places. And I would say from the Google perspective, I forget exactly the angle of that, but if it is, you are thinking, okay, well, how does this work towards my resume? Here at Google, a lot of what we look at is domain expertise as we're hiring, also problem solving, and thinking through challenges, communication. So if you are working on building your resume, thinking about adding those types of things, it's not just about where you maybe got a bachelor's or associate's degree. It's also like what, again, CTF challenges, maybe you've won community organizations that you're a part of. If you've helped run a conference, like talk about good skills, right? Running a conference like that, those take operational skills, those take communication skills. So include these types of things. If you even run a Girl Scout troop, it's not easy to run a Girl Scout troop. So all those types of things, I think, really can be applied to both your professional career.
Can I jump off the back of that, Costa?
Sure.
Do you mind? So, yeah, all great points there. I want to add a few things onto that around, your self-study and self-improvement. Obviously, you can look at, people sometimes ask me, like, what certifications should I do? Which ones are in demand? And you get these sort of questions. And Sarah talked a bit about domain expertise. Follow where your passion is. That's what I would say when you're picking a certification, or when you're picking an area to study in. Pick a domain that's of interest to you, because that's where you want to be working. So there isn't a specific, the only one we tend to see very regularly, the CISSP, and you're not going to get that until you got 4 or 5 years experience. So focus the certifications on areas you're ready. If you haven't got the money to go out and get a bunch of certifications, you actually find a lot of the study material is free and available. So you can still do the studying. You can still mention that you're studying in these areas. These things can go into resumes. So I definitely recommend that. I think LinkedIn is a very, very important area for people to work on. A lot of recruitment is done over LinkedIn. Even the recruitment where you're recommended or referred, people will look for your LinkedIn and see what's in there. So it's really important to work on your LinkedIn profile, and even think about maybe even your own personal brand. What are you putting out there? What are you posting across all social media? Because those things will be looked at when you're interviewing. So think about what you're putting out there. I do recommend that you're authentic, give people an impression of who you are, but then also bear in mind that you want to be professional at the same level. So think about all of those things together, but certainly build your LinkedIn profile. It's a good place for people to find you, and it's a nice place to network. And there's an awful lot of groups on there where you can go and ask for advice and connect with people. So it's a good way of doing things.
Great. Now let's bring on our educator, Deanne. And one of the questions was, I live in a rural area in my state. How can I network to find a remote position? Well, Deanne, you're not in a huge metropolitan area, and yet you find ways to support young girls and young men in your community. Maybe you can, and also you're a big supporter of organizations like WESIS that actually give scholarships to attend conferences. So perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about your educational challenges, but also the tricks of the trade you've learned to help young men and women in this professional career.
Sure, absolutely, Costas. I agree with Chris and Sarah. Everything they said, absolutely true. Just a little bit about my background. I was in industry for 10 years before I came over to the education side. And so I know the end of how you get certifications, why you get certifications, if you need certifications. So I brought that unique mix back into education. And so I've taught in the 2-year space, I've taught in the 4-year space. And all those spaces, one thing I learned is as educators, we have to connect with industry. And so if you connect with industry, you know what industry needs, you find out their needs, and then you kind of teach that in your courses. So I'm director of the cybersecurity program here at NCCU, and I am the point of contact for the Center of Academic Excellence, and I teach in the program as well. I have certifications. I have a PhD in education leadership with a concentration in technology, and I have certifications as a Security Plus. I have Cisco Associate and the CCNP, and that's one of the top things. So when I put all that together, the reason I'm able to teach students what industry likes and then connect them with positions in industry. To your question, how can students get remote positions? Right now, Booz Allen has remote positions open. Dell has remote positions open. A lot of companies are now opening these remote positions for individuals because that's during COVID, people had to work remote. A lot of people don't want to go back into the offices now. So a lot of employers where they did not have remote work in the past now have remote work. And so what I tell students when I was in the 2-year space is, okay, you don't have the 4-year degree, but you have 2-year degrees. So you may need to have a certification. Those certifications, as Chris says, are very important. So what I've done is wrote scholarship opportunities, grants to get that money. Then the students for certifications, and students were able to take certifications like the A+, the Security Plus, IT fundamentals. We paid for it through the grant, and they were able to secure those in that 2-year space to get that entry level position. Also, what we did is we made sure that if you have an IT department near you, we've asked students to go in or any school, any 2-year school, and say, hey, I want to volunteer to work, to learn in that space in IT. Community colleges usually give students an opportunity to volunteer. And then if you're good and they train you, they hire them. So we ask them to do that as well. A lot of people don't look at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those industry, Walmart. They all have cyber offices, and they're willing to give individuals a chance. They also have remote positions. So to speak a little bit on that, But if you are in East NCL, I've had students that was a part of NCL, and even though they were competing, but what they were doing, what they were building their IT skills, but not only their IT skills, but also critical thinking skills, learning how to solve those problems. And they did not know they were learning this, but all these things showed up when they came back to classes. One of the questions that you asked me, Costas, is to talk about is how do you build those skills? One of the things I do in my classes the first day of class is I ask students to do an icebreaker. And I say, you need to stand up. I know you don't know any of the people in here. I know some of you are shy, you're afraid to stand up, but the requirements, stand up, introduce yourself. I want you to tell me something unique about you. Tell me what your major is and what's your passion. That kind of opens students up, getting them very comfortable with speaking, right, in front of other people that they don't know. So that's the first thing. But then throughout their career path in in other classes, you give students opportunities to present in class. They stand up, they do presentations. I give them opportunities to present at other conferences, local conferences that's done in your state, in your community every year. Give them that opportunity. Ask them to submit a poster. WISCs, we have a group of students. I have a WISC students chapter, and each year the requirement is to present at WISC. So every year you come up with a theme, you present an abstract. A lot of times, sometimes they don't get chosen. But you went through all the steps, right? You learned how to write an abstract. You learned how to think about that topic, how to research that topic. And so those are other opportunities that students have in order to build those communication skills, right? And one of the things I do want to say is one of the most important soft skills you can develop is building critical thinking skills and problem solving skills. You really need to do that through all of the different mechanisms there. And so, you know, that is very important. And if you're looking for ways to do that and you're on a budget and you don't have money at all, there is a lot of free type of building your communication skills, how to build problem solving skills. And then I would say, as Sarah said, work with other organizations. Ask if you can help with the Girl Scout troops. Ask if you can volunteer to help in any IT department. Ask your teachers if they have an opportunity for you to be a lab assistant to build some of those skills, because that's another way you can problem solve, build critical thinking skills, is to be a lab assistant for your college, for your church, any of those organizations.
Great. So this is a good place to kind of take a deep breath. We've got a lot of questions queued up, but I wanted to try to answer some of them, or to at least bring them to your attention. One is about entry level. How does the soft skill question affect entry level, mid level, and kind of high career accomplished level of thinking? My own perspective is it's vital for all, but in fact, the hiring manager who's looking at you is going to be looking for something specific. And so let's go around to talk about a little bit the levels or that hiring managers will be looking for. And of course, most hiring managers will not be cybersecurity experts. So you got to be careful to promote and to promote yourself, not only within the arcane alphabet soup of cybersecurity organizations and certifications, but in human terms. Why would you be good in a team environment? How would you be supportive of someone else in a cybersecurity emergency, if you will? So let's talk a little bit about the question that's on the screen now.
All right. Can I was just going to start with kind of an anecdotal like a story that I actually had. I was leading a panel at a conference, and I had 3 CISOs on that panel, and we were talking about attributes and the importance of soft skills on that panel. And one of the key attributes that came up and continually comes up from CISOs is the knowledge of the business. So you need to understand how to be a successful security person. It's really important to know what's important to the business, how the business runs, and then you need to be able to communicate right the way through the business. So when soft skills come in, you're going to be building from that very entry level, and they're going to be looking for those sort of like basic soft skills in the entry level. And then you're going to be gradually using more and more of those skills as you move up, perhaps into management and out of individual contributorship, right the way through to being an executive, where you might be working with highly technical people. You're then speaking to the board in another meeting. You've got to be able to change your communication skills amongst all of those people. So it's going to certainly differ as you move up. But it's really important that you work on having a great foundation of soft skills right at the beginning. Now, the thing that came up in that panel, the lady's a CISO of a really big oil and gas company. And she talked about how she works with the different stakeholders in different parts of the business to ensure that her security program works well. And for her, it was about meeting them, getting to know them, even to the detail of getting to know how their bonuses are paid. And understanding what they're driven to do, right? What are their bosses trying to drive them to do? What are the things that they want to do to succeed? And how can she make sure that the cybersecurity fits into those requirements? How can she help them succeed? And so it was a really interesting conversation. And she's one of the only people that actually gone into that much detail about what she did and how well it worked. And that's just a demonstration of how soft skills can be so important as you move up your career. So absolutely, you're going to want to really work on them right from the beginning, get a great foundation, be able to show them in an interview, and then you're going to continually work and build on those right the way through your career. Whether you go into management, or you're going to want to be a CISO, or whether you want to stay technical, it's still going to be really important to have those soft skills. I'm going to do a little plug while I'm on here. I've got a Route to CISO podcast that I released. Got 6 episodes. It's CISOs talking about their career. And if you've got some interest in that, you'll actually hear them talk about their career path, how they've moved up, and you'll get a feel for the soft skills and how they describe some of the stuff they've done. It's really important. And can make a huge difference to how quickly your career progresses.
Great.
Can I just jump in and say one thing, Constance, here regarding that? One thing that I always tell my students is you have to develop an elevator speech very early. So because you may only have a minute to talk to somebody, you want to sell yourself, right? And so you need to have an elevator speech ready at entry level. And because if someone you're talking with says, tell me something about yourself, you can't sit there. You need to say, for instance, if I have less than a minute to talk to someone, I get in the elevator and I'll say, I'm Dr. Deanne Cranford Wesley. I work for NCCU. I am director of cyber. I have a degree in da-da-da. I have certifications in da-da-da. I'm passionate about cyber and technology, da-da-da. And depending on what it's, so you need that whole speech ready. And so I help my students develop an elevator speech that they're comfortable with, that is not hard for them to get through a sentence, very simple, that they can, it really reflects who they are. So I think developing that elevator speech, having that ready, that's good entry level communication skills. And as they say, soft skills, some people call them professional skills or communication skills, all the same thing, but you need to have that and you need to be very comfortable with it when speaking with individuals in an entry level, middle manager, and senior level. depending on the position you're going after. And I know people say they don't have skills entry level, but you do have skills. So you need to talk about the courses that you've had, what they taught you. What were the competencies you learned in that class? What exactly does that mean? How does that relate to the position that's available? And not all your skills have to be cyber skills. They can be IT skills. Because one thing I tell everyone, you have to have some network and IT skills and know how they work. They're the foundation before you can apply cybersecurity skills on top of those. And all of our students have a little bit of data analytics, a little bit of computer programming. You have networking skills and cyber skills. So you could talk to any of those things depending on the position you're going after.
Great. Sarah, as you think about maybe coming in as well, I wanted to bring up something that Maxim Pozonin has put in. He says, I feel like an interview is really the only place where you can showcase your soft skills. However, many of us don't even get any interview invitations when applying for a job. So the question is, how do we present our soft skills on the resume or anything else I'm adding so that we can stand out and get invited to an interview? I think it's an excellent question about getting through those gatekeepers that are really vicious and landing an interview where you can actually showcase your talent. Any thoughts about that, Sarah?
Yes. I also probably have Chris talk to that more, since I'll be honest, I've never worked in recruiting. I've done a lot on trying to promote roles, but well, for the first question, quick, I just think folks should think like entry level, mid level, and senior level. Like your soft skills and your communication skills are going to vary because your roles are often very different, right? Early on, you're communicating with your peers and communicating up to maybe your tech lead or your manager. Mid-career, you often are a manager, so you're leading your teams and inspiring and supporting them. And then senior level, you're leading teams of people, right? So it's really leadership skills and how are you keeping cohesion, both from a technical standpoint, but also probably from a team dynamics, from your maybe most senior stakeholders to, sometimes you're reporting to the CEO, right? So, don't worry about senior level till you get through the other ones, but it's going to probably change quite drastically. And some people, it's okay. They decide they want to stay at a certain level or go a certain direction, right? You will see that in your career. You also never know what the world will throw at you. So I think for getting in the door, I have a few ideas. Chris, maybe, I'll be honest, might be better at this than me, but I would say, one, it is a hard job market. Even when there's lots of open jobs, like it is hard. It is hard to get a job, especially in advanced fields. So don't feel bad. It will take you multiple tries. It will take you applying to a company and maybe applying to that company 2 years later, again, in a different role or a different location, right? Like it's, especially if you're coming to a bigger company, it can be easy. So I want to acknowledge it. Like, we always hear there's huge job shortages, and then it's also hard to get a job, and it kind of breaks your brain. But, in an advanced, fast-paced field, sometimes that's just challenging. There's basic things that have like just, again, putting at the top of your resume some of the skills you have. I think, describing, again, if there are other activities where soft skills might be more important, having those listed on your resume, probably having a cover letter that talks to that a bit. But I think, you are correct, and your communication skills are going to be in the moment where you are communicating, which is getting to the interview stage. So I don't have maybe the best advice on that. I would say, though, when you are in the interview, like thinking through, if you don't know the answer, how you would approach the problem. A lot of times interviews are kind of looking at, tell me about an experience when you dealt with this. And, early on, you won't maybe have that experience. And so you can say, I haven't had that experience, but if I were in this situation, this is how I would think about it. Or, okay, I haven't done that, but I'm wondering, asking a little bit more like, from what I understand from some of the testing I've done, this is how I think I would approach it. Does your company use this style or this style? Like, I think just, not being afraid to answer a question you don't have a clear answer to, because that shows your soft skills more than maybe if you just said, oh yeah, this is how I solved it. So thinking through kind of some of those, how would you creatively answer when you don't maybe have a very hard answer to give. But I'm going to hand to Chris on the resume piece.
I don't know, Sarah. You did a pretty good job yourself.
Yeah, I think you did.
Before you go on, let me put
Good questions.
Put in a plug for the National Cyber League. There's one thing in the when you play National Cyber League, that is probably one of your best ways to smash through to an interview. And it's a scouting report. The scouting report is one of the least appreciated of all the NCL experiences. It's a piece of paper. It shows you, what you did against 9 critical issues, and it shows it across time if you played NCL for more than one season. That itself is a door opener, that you can quantify your skill levels against specific targets. And as NCL grows and changes, we're going to be adding artificial intelligence. We're going to be adding all sorts of things to those metrics, if you will, of success during a competition. Competitions aren't everything, but they certainly help you show measurable ways that another person will say, well, just a minute here. He's good at this, he's good at that. Okay, now that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to do, and then I'll turn it over to Chris, is over and above information security, there's this thing called operational technology security. In other words, how does the information system that you're providing support for impact business flows, impact procurement, impact health services, impact all sorts of things? That is the future gold mine for all of you who are currently students or currently looking for a job. It's not just the cybersecurity on the IT side, it's also the impact of cybersecurity and the impact it's going to have on operational technology. And those of you that want to develop, again, several questions have been, how can I make myself kind of separate myself from others? A little bit of a discussion about, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. I really love, trucking. I really love in the Safeway store, I was doing this. Operational technology and the impact cybersecurity will have is what most industries are going to start looking for. Not just how the electrons move back and forth, but the impact on people. And by the way, that's why we're looking for soft skills. Because you need to start talking to people who are not computer scientists, who are not computer engineers, who are not cybersecurity experts. That will give you a pathway to a really well-funded future. So Chris, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I jotted down some notes here because I had so much going through my brain. I definitely think Sarah did a great job on answering that for sure. So there's a few ideas that I wanted to share. First of all, I spoke to a CISO. It's always been challenging to get.
What happened?
It's what technology calls freezing.
Yes.
It's frozen. So, and I don't know if he knows he's frozen. All right. I'm talking about this soon, and perhaps our friends in the background will.
Did you get me there? I don't know whether I cut off or not.
Yeah, you cut off.
I did. Yeah. Okay. I'm back now. I'll start back from where I was. What I was going to say is I was speaking to a CISO. It's very tough to get an entry level role. It's tough to get a role. It's more company are holding sort of more demand than people right now, even with people with more experience. I'm going to give you an example of that, but also going to show how that could help you go out there and actually get a position and why the soft skills are so key. So I spoke to a CISO. It was an unusual conversation. He was very proud to tell me that they had 700 applicants for one job. And then he was very proud to secondly tell me and volunteer to me that he hadn't looked at any of the resumes that were sent to him. He looked at none of the 700 resumes. And I suspect this is going on quite a lot. He had 6 people recommended to him, and he just interviewed those 6 people. And within those six people, he found the person he liked. Now, in terms of how did he get those 6 people, they were people that were recommended to him. When you've got 700 resumes, it's daunting to look at. And if there's a shortcut and somebody's saying, hey, I know this person, Actually, they volunteer at my local ISC2 chapter, or I met them at a conference, or I've been watching them post on LinkedIn, and they post some really interesting stuff, and they seem so passionate, and they're actually looking for an entry-level role. Those are the sort of things that you need to be doing that will get people to say, you should speak to this person. And while there's more and more applicants, instead of getting stuck in that black hole, you can be the person that's networking, the person that's been put forward, the person that's shortlisted and at the top of that pile. And so it's really important to use your soft skills before you get that interview to network. That's how most people will get their roles. They'll network, they'll meet people. You can volunteer. We talked about the local chapters. When I first started my business, I went to a cloud security meeting, and it was their second ever meeting. And they said, we want to become a chapter for the Cloud Security Alliance. First thing we need to do is build a board. Now, I'm a recruiter. I'm not a cybersecurity practitioner, but I put my hand up and said, I can help you. I could help you do some of your social media. I could help you with some of this other stuff. And it's amazing. These chapters are born from volunteers. They're born from people giving their time. And these are things that you can do. So you can absolutely volunteer. You could find yourself a board member of a chapter and with very little, if any, industry experience, because that's not what they need to do that. And that gives you several things. It gives you a network. It helps get you your name put around locally. So when positions come up, they'll look at you for that. I should also add that some of the chapters, and I wrote this down for Pedro, who mentioned about certifications and cost. If you're a member of some of these chapters and they have certifications, they often offer their board members heavily discounted exam fees, sometimes even free. So that volunteering can help you with that sort of stuff as well. So that's something that you can absolutely do. You can build your LinkedIn, you can make videos, and you can talk about the stuff that you're learning about. Again, you're showing people your experience, you're showing people your communication skills while doing that. If you're out and not in a city that has a lot of chapters and you're out somewhere maybe a little bit more rural, you probably still have mum and pop shops there. You probably still have seniors that are there. Can you go out and help them? Could you go out and use the knowledge that you've got, which would still be, without commercial experience, would still be more knowledge than they have, to go out and help them secure their network, your little local shop, right? Can you help them implement some basic tools or basic software or even basic processes that make them more secure? All of those things you can put in your resume. They can be your references. So those are the things that you can absolutely do. The other thing I would say as well is don't only look at information security or cybersecurity roles. Be very, very open. Most people that come into the industry come through an IT role, help desk, support, that sort of stuff. A lot of the CISOs that I've been interviewing for the podcast, that's the background that they come through. Some of them were in the forces. We just had the Veterans Day. Thank you for everybody that served, right? That's a great place to get into and build your experience as well. So those are all things you can do. And then don't forget, whatever job you've got, whichever company you work for, they will need cybersecurity. So can you help, if you're working at the local supermarket, do you notice anything there that they could improve in terms of their cybersecurity? Help them. You could get a great reference from the manager there. He or she helped me to do this.
And I just want to add that one of my IT groups, we went out to a senior home, and seniors had all these high-tech cell phones, and they did not know how to work the cell phones. So our students did a training on how to work their mobile devices. They had the latest iPhones, and no one knew how to work them. So they showed them how to send pictures, how to attach pictures. We even gave, they said, what about my device? They all had computers. And so students had to show them how to do presentations, how to add pictures to those presentations so they could send them to their family members via email. Okay, that's what they wanted. They told us what they wanted, and we did a training. So those students used those, and we went once a week for 6 weeks. that information they used on their resume as work experience. They gave the name of the cyber home, how long, how many hours they worked. So you were right, Chris. That's absolutely right. And it also helps team building in the process. So those students are working at a team to do that. And so we've done that. And I actually help veterans as well with the watches, with the iWatch. So those are all things you guys can do to volunteer. So absolutely.
That's great. Now, as your moderator, I have to say, time is flying. We only have about 14 minutes left, and it's my intent to ask each of you to provide 2-minute summary comments at the end. So we have maybe about 8-10 minutes more to go. We have lots of great questions that continue to come in, and please put in your questions, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can. We heard about the strategy of coming in maybe on any situation. Desktop support could be a great entryway, because all of a sudden you're beginning to talk to people, you're beginning to see people face to face, and you're beginning to understand opportunities that may exist. So that's answering one of the questions. Yes, indeed, it may not sound optimal, but getting into the organization and understanding what they do is important. And let me just put a pin there. It's vital when you're trying to interview, when you're trying to develop soft skills for a job, to understand who you're interviewing with. Lots of kids show up and say, well, I'm good. I've taken these courses. And they haven't taken the time to understand what the product is that the company makes, whether it's a government organization that serves the public in a particular domain, whether it's a company that manufactures things or provides soft services to clients and so on. It's vital that you understand not the cybersecurity domain of the company, but the end result of the company, what the company does for a living. Because if you go into an interview, if you put your resume along with a cover letter that says, I love what you do as a company, and I want to contribute to your end success, I bet you that your resume will be picked up and will be read, because people are looking for something to distinguish, and what distinguishes someone is understanding what I would like to do. And all of a sudden, yeah, I want to hire you because you understand what I want to do. With the time left, maybe we should take one more question. It's on AI. Mystique, you said, I hear networking and collaboration as valuable soft skills. How do you make genuine human connections with the rise of AI? What separates us from automation? This question is in terms of connecting virtually. Let me just lead the panel by saying I love the Zooms and the Teams and all the other platforms that exist. It gives us a chance to meet so many people that we would never meet. Yes, it's not the same. Yes, it doesn't develop trust right away. Yes, it would be much better to meet the person and perhaps afterwards fall back on a Zoom thing. But I think these platforms are fantastic because they allow us to listen to other people's perspectives. And when you marry that with a YouTube or two, which is again an asynchronous way to learn something, you got YouTube teaching you, and then you got Zooms to join in and listen to people and perhaps communicate with them. Those are great. And AI is only going to enhance that. AI is not going to bother that. So what are other people thinking about how AI is kind of coming into the picture?
Can I just start and say, I introduced AI to my students about a year ago, and the first thing they said is, AI is going to take our jobs. And I said, AI may transform the way you work. It's not going to get rid of your job, but it's going to transform. So you may need to add some additional skills to that. You may need to get some training. But AI is going to enhance you, and AI needs human interaction to do what it does, right? So human interaction is needed with AI, and so when the questionnaire says how are you going to get human interaction, well, it's happening with AI, because you cannot have human interaction without AI. And so you have to look at it in a broader view where, yeah, you can do some things with AI, but on the back end is someone on the back end that's making that happen, right? They program something, they have an object or something they're utilizing. So you just have to look at it in broader terms, and you're interfacing with that AI bot, no matter what it is. But as Costa says, on a larger scale, you know that it's a person behind the object, behind the script, and you may ask to meet that person. So you're really communicating in a larger scale with humans. It's a human interaction. The AI is, if you will.
Great. Sarah, how about yourself? Google's at the forefront of so many technology innovations, including AI itself. How do you see that kind of tool slash revolution coming into play in cybersecurity careers?
Yeah. Well, thanks for this question. This is a big one. What separates us from automation? I don't know if I can answer it in 30 seconds to a minute, or I think it might be a little existential. But I would say, I think similar to Dr. Deanne, AI is a tool that you should be using. So please go open Gemini or your favorite AI tool and think about how you use it, right? So, it will change jobs. I don't think that all jobs are going to go away, but it will be used. Like if you become, a security analyst as your first level job, you will likely be using an AI tool to help you support that going forward, right? And it might, the hope is that it makes it so that the boring, toilsome things to do you get the help from the AI on that, and the more interesting digging around you get to do, right? So the idea is that it would write the summaries for you instead of you doing it manually, right? In program management, right? I'm using it for helping me create a template. It's like, okay, well, a template already exists. Rather than me redoing the template, let's just get one that's generated. Okay, it can auto-populate. Okay, I have all these people in this email and port it over and auto-populates, right? The idea is to kind of take away the work that doesn't take as much creative thinking and skills, and to have that done quicker for you. Human connection, I'm sure hope that's not going away. I'm sure there are AI tools that are trying to mimic it. I have heard positive things, or like maybe there's ways of, people who have challenges interacting or past traumas can use an AI, person or AI agent to help them. I don't quite know. I think it'll be a very interesting future that we're going into. I think AI will be there to help us. And I wouldn't, shy away from it, because if you shy away from it, you're just going to take longer to do things that the person next to you can do faster. And so, yeah, I don't know if I have a great summary of that. You should get familiar with it, and you should try out different ones, right? You're applying to a job at Google, then go spend time on Anthropic and OpenAI. And then when you come talk to Google, you say, oh, I noticed I use Gemini to do this, and then I use ChatGPT to do it, and then I use this, and notice those differences. Like as of any new technology, you want to be testing all of it and seeing what is working better. Also, as security professionals, look at the privacy policy, look at the data policy, think about it. Are you clearing it? What are you following? Like those will actually be the interesting conversations for your conversation starter. We didn't really get into even that. Like, how do you sometimes have interesting conversations with people? But go play around with those things and bring that to your conversations, and not think, oh, this is going to take away my job, but how is it enhancing my job? And also, hey, I checked out all of your competitors, or I checked out this new thing. There also will be lots of opportunity for startups in this space, right? If you are lucky to be in a position where a startup fits your life and what you can do, like go spend time in one of those places, because there's going to be a lot of those, right? AI and security are going to have a lot of companies that are getting started, that you'll be able to learn a lot in. They don't always work out, but you will learn a lot of that, and then you use that going forward. So as much as it might be nerve-wracking, I think embrace that kind of discomfort and try to move forward with it.
Great idea. So we're coming to the end. Maybe Chris, you want to start us off with a round of maybe minute long goodbye, and here's what I have to tell you. Once again,
Yeah, happily. I'll firstly say absolutely embrace AI. AI might be your savior because for many of us that work rurally, who don't get to have those talks that we have in the office where I'm stuck on something, what would you do? You know, there's a lot of that sort of stuff. And you may find that you'll end up with some sort of virtual AI companion that actually helps you through some of that stuff when you're entering as an entry-level person. It's why many entry-level positions are quite hard to do remotely, why most of them are in the office. So you actually might be thanking AI at some point. So just remember that. Embrace new technology. Make sure you're taking a look at it. Soft skills will absolutely always be key. Network. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And then my final thing, just a bit of advice for those that I know somebody asked about building a brand and working on LinkedIn. I have a rule, I call it the 3-2-1 rule. And it's something, if you can make some time each day to do something on LinkedIn, and this should help you with your career and help you to network. And the 3-2-1 rule is every day try and do one post. Make sure it's authentic. It's something you feel important about. It can be something you're sharing. Make sure you comment on that and make sure people understand why it's relevant to you. The two part is look at 2 other posts that you think you want to get involved in that conversation. Hits home. It's something that you feel is important to you. Comment on that as well and get involved in the conversation on LinkedIn. Again, this is remote networking. And finally, look to add 3 people every day to your LinkedIn network, and look at those people to be people that are going to, maybe people that you inspire to do their job, maybe people that would be a good connection at a company that you want to work for, or maybe it's somebody that posts very interesting things and you're interested in what they do. If you make sure that you try and do that every day and set aside some time, you can network remotely no matter where you are, and that can help you push your career forward.
Thanks, Chris. Deanne, you want to wrap up from your side? No, can't hear you.
Sorry.
We've all done it.
Yes, Chris did a marvelous job. Everything he says, absolutely do those things. And one thing I will add is if you're on anyone you meet that you say, oh, I wish I was like them, or I wish I could be like them, I wish I could have that kind of drive, connect with them and reach out to them and keep that conversation going with that person. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. Keep that connection, because you don't know where in your career path that person can help you along the way. I would say try to find you some free conference to go to. A lot of companies sponsor students. Find some free resources so you can use. There's lots of free resources. If you're thinking about certification, CompTIA always offers free training. Test Out Software does as well. EC Console offers free webinars. Do some of the free webinar things. That's going to help you learn. That's going to connect you with other people. And I'm going to say, never get discouraged. Never get discouraged. It only takes one yes. So do all the things you need to do to keep going, keep branding yourself, keep updating your skills while you're looking for that yes. Don't just stop when you finish school. Continue to learn. And that you're guaranteed a career that you're going to love. So thank you.
And Sarah, you've got the last word.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you to my fellow panelists, and thank you, Costas, for inviting me. And thank you to everyone who joined. I +1 everything that folks said here. And I also would just say, one of the comments, or a couple of times it's been mentioned, of think about security not just directly in tech at big tech companies, right? Think about security throughout your life, right? And I love the story of going and working with older people, right? And older people are actually one of the biggest targets for fraud, yes. Right? And so, like, think about one, like, what do you like to do? Pay attention to your day, right? Because sometimes you'll surprise yourself. I surprised myself recently. when I was working on a budget sheet, and I was like, I'm actually enjoying this. And you might think you enjoy doing one thing, and then actually pay attention to how your energy levels are. Like, you might find things that you enjoy, or you might find topics or organizations that don't do security, but you can bring it to them. So I think all those things, I know it sounds overwhelming, but kind of pay attention. I often keep just a running doc of like things to do and things to look into. And I might not always go back to it for a couple of months, but then I'll look back and be like, oh yeah, that was like a cool company. Let me go look at what they're doing. Or let me think like, and learn about, fraud. And like, there's a thing called the scam spotters from the AARP. Like, how interesting is that? Right. And someone had to create that, right? Someone there, who maybe works on Medicare benefits also has to think about cybersecurity, and maybe you're the person that goes to them and helps with that. And it might be, I know a lot of people are worried about internships and stuff. Some of it might be unpaid if you have the privilege to do that, or you might have to do it part-time while you work at a different role. Like, unfortunately, sometimes you have to do those extra things to get in here, but think about ways you can do that and fit into your schedule. I know it's very hard. And so also don't get down on yourself if you can't fit it all in, because this is fit in through a day. But I think listen to some of this, keep coming to these things. I mean, all of you showed up today, right? So pat yourself on the back for that. Go write on LinkedIn about how you came and give Costas a shout out. And continue what you're doing. And maybe the last thing is just keeping up with the news too. Another way to impress people is to know what the latest breach was and what its impact is. And so all that takes is signing up for free newsletter, reading the cover of the local paper, or looking at a Reddit board. So all those are free ways for you to do that, and will show that you're keeping up with what's going on in this field. So I will stop there, but thank you. Costas probably has words of wisdom to close this out.
Well, it's 4:02, so we are just at time. Thank you, the three of you, for giving so graciously of your time. You're all three very, very busy individuals. I know that our NCL players and coaches on the call have enjoyed your remarks, and all of us keep hoping for great results for fall 2024, which will be revealed very, very soon. Congratulations to one and all. Whether you won or not, it doesn't matter. The matter is that you participated and you're one of the group, one of the tribe. Well done. So with that, I'm very happy to terminate this call.
Thank you, Costas. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.